Hey guys, happy Friday. Today is Friday, May 31st, 2019. I can't believe it is the end of May in 2019. Last day of the month, last week of the month, last day of the week. Super excited for June to start. May has been a long month, but a productive month. So I know we're going at a little bit of a different time today. Hey Cindy, let me know you can hear me and see me. We can't seem to find my camera stand. Dave, what's up? Can't seem to find my camera stand, so I'm borrowing someone. So while you guys are tuning in, big shout out to Phillip Madison and SAKS Off for providing this gorgeous jacket, the gorgeous shirt, and the matching pocket square. So yes, we finally decided to find someone who's been kind enough to give Ted Bogert and the TED Show a little bit of pop of color, and we appreciate you, Phillip, and SAKS Off on Vineland and SAKS Off in general. So tomorrow is, so I got a thumbs up, thank you guys. Hey everybody, happy Friday from Puerto Rico, Rebecca Soto. Michelle Mendez is on. We do an annual show. We do a show about insurance. My background is insurance. I was 20 plus years. I'm still a licensed insurance agent. I just don't practice. And I am a licensed instructor for the Central Florida Insurance School locally. Hurricane tips. David, you're not allowed. That's not my fault. We'll talk about that sometime. Anyway, he's giving me a hard time, and I'll tell you why, because it's very important. But hurricane season starts tomorrow. Tomorrow's June 1st. So we've already had a couple of storms out there, kind of playing around in the Atlantic. And of course, the NOAA, the National Hurricane Center, has said we're going to have like close to a normal year. I don't even know what that means anymore. But here's the deal. If you're not prepared, it's not a normal year. Larry Barfield, you're very kind. Thank you, my friend. So let's talk about insurance. Let's talk about hurricane season. So it runs June 1st through November 30th. So it's a long time. And if you've lived in Florida long enough, you know that you could have storms way up into the time that you can't even believe you have storms. And just because you're not a homeowner doesn't mean you don't need to pay attention to hurricane season, because your insurance and hurricane insurance, insurance for anything that goes on in a storm can impact your home, whether you own it or rent it, can impact your vehicles, your boat, your motorcycle, you name it. It's all impacted by storms. And so it's super important for you to be prepared. And I'm not going to spend an entire half hour, I promise, educating you on that, but I'm going to give you a couple of points that I think are important. First of all, with the advent of phones and all of you that love to take pictures and videos, I suggest first and foremost, this weekend while you have a chance and there's nothing crazy going on, you should take pictures and video, and I suggest both, of all of your rooms in your house and any of your belongings. That includes your closet that has your clothes in it, artwork, jewelry, I don't care what it is. Your outside, your fence, what your roof looks like. Take it all. It's a matter of 30 minutes or less it's probably going to take you to take a video and pictures. But here's what's going to be great about that. Even if you lose your phone, it's still going to be saved on the cloud if you do it right. So if something happens to you and you lose everything, God forbid, you're going to have a video and a picture trail of exactly what happened. Because here's what goes on when a catastrophe goes on, when a catastrophe happens. You can't remember what you had. You don't remember every single piece of clothing. You don't remember exactly what the brand was of your coffee maker, of your dishes, of whatever it is that's important to you. You're not going to remember every single thing. And when the insurance carriers come in and they want an inventory list and you go, well, I have clothes, or yeah, I've got a piece of art, or I had a really pretty ring, and you don't have any idea how to value it, guess what? Neither do they. They don't know what to do. They're not exactly sure what that means. So it's super important for you to keep a record. In the old days, we used to keep a written journal of it. We used to have little inventory sheets we gave you. There's no need for that anymore. You can take the pictures, you can tag them, you can take the video and talk through it. If you want, I think for extra protection, you email it to yourself so you always have it. You email it to a best friend, you email it to family members out of state. And so there's always a record of it. But if you don't have it visually, trust me, you're going to be going through enough craziness if we do have a catastrophe that you're not going to remember the things that you need to remember. You're not going to remember exactly what grandma's bowl looks like. You're not going to remember certain things. And I want to give a caveat on insurance too. You need to check your insurance policy. So what I recommend always around this time of year, I mean, I like it in January, but we'll go with, let's say we've put it off like most of us have put most things off. And you want to review your insurance policy. You want to go through there and make sure of a couple of key points, but I would review the whole thing. And your insurance agents are going to be thankful for you to go through it. It's good for them, liability-wise. It's good for them, trust me. They want you to make sure you have everything covered. But there are certain things that you own that have a limit on the policy. For example, electronics. For example, jewelry. So you might have a $10,000 ring, engagement ring, and if you don't have that specially insured, then you're not going to get that $10,000 back, because most jewelry policies don't cover the specific item. They only cover a total amount. So any insurance agents who are popping on here, and I see a couple of you that want to correct me or add anything, please feel free. But you have to take a look. Your electronics, you've Mac Daddied out your gaming system, you've Mac Daddied out your TV, you've got speakers everywhere, your entertainment center looks insane. Guess what? You have a limit on the amount of electronics you have, unless you are very specific on your policy and you talk to your insurance agent about making sure that you're covered if anything happens to that piece of equipment. If it's a $3,000 camera, guess what? You probably only have about $500 or $1,000 worth of coverage if you're lucky. And don't forget, you got to add your deductible in there. So we'll talk about deductibles in a minute. But it's super important for you to know your limitations on your policy. If you have a total loss, do you think you're going to get all of that money back? Not necessarily. You're not going to get some of the things back that you think you will, because you don't have enough coverage. You don't have the coverage that you should. So let's talk about deductibles for a minute. So most people have a 2% hurricane deductible, and sometimes it's hurricane wind, sometimes it's got a million different names, but let's think a tropical storm, let's say hurricane. We're just going to go there to simplify it. 2% hurricane deductible means, to simplify it, if your house is insured for $100,000, the first $2,000 of any hurricane claim you have to cover. Did you hear what I just said? $2,000. So if your house is $200,000 insured, that's the first $4,000. And 2% is kind. A lot of you have a 5% or a 10% wind deductible, hurricane deductible, and you just don't know it. Do you have 10 grand to come off out of pocket before the insurance company will even kick in anything? Probably not. And remember those electronics I was talking about where there's only a $1,000 limit? Well, if you've got a $2,000 deductible, guess what? You're not getting a dime, folks. So you really need to look at your policies. You need to take a look. What's your deductible? What's happening? Do you have replacement costs on your contents? What does that mean? If I have this pretty beautiful jacket from SAKS and it costs $500, I want a new jacket from SAKS for $500. I don't want a depreciated value of that. I want to have the real stuff. Guess what? If I don't have a replacement cost on contents, you start to get challenged with that by the insurance carriers. And to their credit, they've given you the policy. You've signed off on it. They've given you all the paperwork. You may have been at a closing, and this is where our real estate friends come in, and you may have been at a closing and you're just trying to get the right price to make the loan work or make the deal work. And you said, oh, I'll figure out it. No problem about replacement cost. I don't have anything that's worth anything anyway. Guess what? You're fine. Hi. Say hi. Guess what? You're not going to get reimbursed, guys. So you really need to look at that. 2% hurricane deductible means 2% of your coverage A, which is your house value. So if you're, again, insured at $100,000, $2,000 off the top before you get anything. So make sure you look at that and review it with your insurance agency and your insurance agents. We're coming up on, we have a lot of closings. People who do new purchases. Let's talk about that. So my real estate friends, they know this just as well as I know it. You have to make sure you get your insurance. That should be the first thing you do, is secure an insurance, a homeowner insurance quote, as you're going into this, because from now till November, there could be a storm that pops up and the insurance carriers can shut down. They can shut down. And so guess what? I don't care if you have a closing tomorrow. If there's nobody who's going to write your insurance, you're not closing tomorrow. That's right. There's no time like now to review your insurance policies, Michelle. You want to make sure. Believe me, don't think it's a bad thing to review them. Your insurance carriers, your insurance agents want you to know what your coverage is. The problem is we're too busy and we just want to sign the paperwork and we're done. We don't realize how desperate we're going to be when we're in that position where we need that insurance. So on the hurricane part, I want you to know that during this season, if you're going into a new closing, get a quote, get a couple of quotes, shop your insurance, and go to an agent that you trust. If you have them with your car insurance, why aren't you looking at them for your home insurance? And we'll talk about car insurance in a minute. And don't think that just because you're a renter, you'll get out of that. And we'll talk about that too. But for my real estate friends, it's super important. Don't wait, and make sure that they are getting a quote that will be honored and that isn't tied to something that could happen in the future, and you may not be able to get that quote. Get multiple quotes from people. Shop around. I can't stress it enough. I used to tell all my clients to do the exact same thing when I had the insurance agencies. Renters, don't think you're out of it. Guess what? You've got a deductible too. You probably have a hurricane deductible. You don't even know it. And you probably told your agent in the beginning, I don't have anything worth any money. Yeah, you know that 56-inch screen you bought, that big TV, all of that stuff you have in the apartment. Guess what? You're going to want it replaced. And if you have a high deductible and not enough coverage, you're going to be SOL, folks. You're not going to be able to get the replacement. You need to review your coverage. Make sure you have the stuff that you want. Ask the questions. Go through that very first page that says coverage A, coverage B. Make them explain every single bit to you. And ask about replacement cost, and ask about how much coverage you have for things that you know are in your home. Jewelry, electronics, art, collectibles. Your auto insurance. So people think, well, that doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Auto insurance, so let's say you've got a 1979 car, and you decided, well, it's not worth much, so I'm not going to get comprehensive coverage. Well, collision coverage on your auto is for a collision. Think about it. That's an action, something happened. Comprehensive coverage is pretty much everything else. Fire, hurricane damage. You've got all this stuff going on around you that's not a collision while you're driving, a collision. So you could be without a car if you don't have comprehensive coverage and it's damaged in a storm. You need to ask about that stuff. And comprehensive coverage just isn't that much more money. You should really review that. So don't think just because you have an old car and, okay, I'm all safe and everything's good, it's a storm, and then that car is damaged in the storm and you don't have comprehensive coverage. Again, you're out of luck. You need to talk to your insurance agent, your insurance representative. You need to find out what's covered. Let's say you have stuff in your car that's important during the storm and something happens to it. Sometimes you don't have coverage for that, guys. You need to really take a look. Guess what comprehensive coverage is? Theft. Theft, guys. So you have to take a look. What if something gets taken out of your car during the storm? These are things that I have experienced as an insurance agent that happen, and when you don't have the right coverage, then guess what? You're not going to be covered. So Dave Frazier made a comment. There are a lot of policies out there in Florida that don't cover screened enclosures. So if you have a pool, you have a screened-in porch, you have anything like that, some of them don't cover your screened enclosure at all, period. And what if it's just your screened enclosure and you've got a 2% hurricane deductible? Guess what? That's not going to be covered either. So you have to ask your agent, go to your insurance company and say, what do I have? Are screened enclosures included? Because after that crazy round of storms, first it was Andrew and then it was everybody else. Guess what? They don't want to cover it. They didn't want to cover that. And maybe they've started to add it, but you need to find out. Do you know? And if all of these answers, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you need to run, don't walk. to your insurance agency, you need to call them immediately and you need to go through the coverages on your policy. Here's another suggestion. A lot of you don't have the same insurance carrier for home and auto, like you've got XYZ and ABC. You have the same agent, but here's the problem. If we all are in a catastrophe and the agent's lines go down, you're going to need to know your claims number, your homeowners and your auto claims phone numbers during that so you can make a call. If we're all out of power in the area, you can't get a hold of your insurance agent. I'm sorry, he's human. He lives here. He or she lives here, and they're going through the same thing. You need to know those claims numbers. And what would I do? Take a picture of it on the back of your card. Yes, you have to verify different coverages for primary and investment properties, and I'll talk about that in a second, David. Thank you. You should take a picture of that and email it to yourself. Your homeowner insurance company and the claims number for there, and your auto insurance company and the claims number for there. Your boat, your motorcycle, whatever it is that you have, your motor home, you're a renter, write down or take a picture of the claims phone number, which should be very easy to find. And if you can't find it, call your insurance agent now and ask what it is, and have it somewhere you can access it if anything happens. So David brings up a question. So primary homeowner, where you live in the home, and investment properties, HO3, DP3, or DP whatever, dwelling property is what it is. Those are completely different policies and cover different things. They also have very different options. They have different options on the replacement cost of the dwelling, replacement cost of contents, loss of use. These are all words I'm throwing at you that you're going to want to know if anything's going on. And David brings that up because there has been a difference in the other structures, which is the screened enclosures on a primary home versus an investment home. So anybody who's closing on an investment home, anybody who has an investment home, any property managers out there, anybody who works with investment homes, it's not the same as a homeowner's policy. They're completely different. They don't cover the same thing. It sounds like they do because the declarations page looks the same. They don't. So you need to review that. And if you're in charge of that as a property manager, you're working it as a realtor, you need to, if you're in charge of making sure that they have the right coverage, I'd review that policy with the insurance agent in a heartbeat. You need to make sure that you know what your coverages are. One last thing before I head out, flood insurance. So we're in Florida, so I'm a believer that every single part of Florida, anybody who is in Florida should have a flood policy. Why? Because flood is water that rises from the outside in. So if you have water damage on your pipes, that's different. That's water damage. I get it. But if you have water that rises from the outside in, think of the scenarios that could be. Could that be from your pool? Could that be from bad drainage from the 95,000 construction projects we have going around where we all know the drainage is horrible? Could it be from anything? You just happen to be in one of those areas where the water rises. If that water rises and goes into your house, that is flood. It's not water damage. So if you don't have flood insurance, you will not have coverage unless there's a special policy out there that somebody's bought. Most homeowners insurance policies do not cover that, and you have to have a separate flood policy. Well, Ted, I'm not in a flood zone. I don't care then. It's $258 a year or $312 a year. It's worth every penny. You should get it. Because guess what? When that water rises and gets into your house and floods everything and ruins it, you're not going to have a dime's worth of coverage. Nothing. Because that is considered a separate policy, and that's flood insurance, not homeowners insurance. So you need to check that out too. And I am right now, if you're not a new purchase, it's a 30-day wait to get flood insurance. So let's say you listen to me and you go, I want that insurance. You better go out and get it now, because it's 30-day wait if it's not a new purchase. 30 days. You know how much can happen in 30 days? If you know you're in a bad drainage area, you know you've got a pool that overflows when it rains basic rain or thunderstorms, you need to run out, in my opinion, and get a flood insurance policy. Ask your insurance agent. They'll be thankful, and you will too, because I promise you, when that water comes into your house and starts pouring in and you have zero coverage, you're going to go, I should have listened to Ted Boger. I don't know. Most people don't say that very often. All right, so that's my information. I have a wonderful group of true insurance professionals that I refer business to, that I like to work with. And so if you need additional information, you don't feel comfortable with your agency, you're dealing with an 888 number or an 800 number, and it's just not giving you what you need, reach out to me. I'll refer you to some people. I'll refer you to a couple of people because that's what we do. But don't get caught with your pants down during hurricane season. It's a really bad place to be, and nothing's worse than having to tell an insured no when they've lost everything. It's awful. It's terrible. And so now you have been informed and educated. Feel free to reach out to me. Have a beautiful weekend. Happy May. Look, Phillip Madison, look how good this looks. Kudos to Phillip. I mean, I can't tell you how many comments I've had on this amazing outfit from Phillip Madison and SAKS Off 5th on Vineland and SAKS Off 5th. It's absolutely beautiful. All right. I love you guys. You know you can reach out to me. You know, I know I'm your favorite lender personality. I think that's what I said. But I have a background in insurance, and you should utilize it. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, anything. I'll direct you. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you, but I'll tell you the questions to ask. And that's what you want. Everybody should get out there, and you should be reviewing your insurance policy. Now is the time. There's no storms out there. Get out there. My real estate friends, if you have questions, whether you use me as a lender or not, let me be a resource. Let me help you out. I will direct you to the right people if you don't already have them. So I love you guys. Happy end of May. Thanks again, Phillip. Thanks you guys for tuning in. Mwah. Have a great weekend. See you later.